I spent 30 days playing a mobile MMORPG with aggressive pay-to-win mechanics, autoplay, and open world PvP, so you guys don't have to. Of course, most of you guys wouldn't have played that anyway, but it baffled me to see so many players on that game. Is it such a good game? Is it addicting? Or is there something more that holds their attention? So over the course of 30 days, I investigated to find out. I just had to get to the bottom of this because I view mobile games as the biggest contributing factor to the decline of quality MMORPG development. Obviously, they're way more profitable than a PC game and take a fraction of the time to develop. Also, I like learning about dark patterns and educating my viewers about them. Dark patterns are psychological monetization tactics used by the gaming industry to extract as much money as possible, and they've done so with a great deal of success. Do note, for this video, we're not going to be focusing on a specific MMORPG. It's going to be broadly on mobile MMORPGs. We will use one as a guinea pig for the sake of the video, but the three distinguishing factors I want to focus on are 1, pay to win, 2, autoplay, and finally, the cross-platform capabilities. So here's how these three factors affected the game I played for this video. That is going to be Mu Immortal, which is a mobile MMORPG with a pedigree in the niche Asian grind MMORPG space. So starting off with the pay to win side, let's just talk about the franchise. Mu is a franchise that dates back for over 20 years now. You know, many players still play the original Mu online. If you look on Twitch, it actually has a decent viewership for what it is. The current state of Mu and its various games that it has, many mobile games, and including the main game on PC, is pay to win. This game is no exception. This game has two primary factors for pay to win: power and levels. As an open world PvP MMORPG, you would think that this is a deal breaker, right? I mean, there's no penalties for killing a player in the open world. You can just go to town and massacre. However, you know, despite there being this immense disparity, people still play the game. Like, you can even kill someone at spawn over and over and trap them in a map. So why do people still play this? Well, you know, it's a bit deeper than just saying it's pay to win or not. So for one thing, there is a saving grace with the game and how it's designed, because it does segregate players based on levels. Not well, but there is some segregation to a decent extent to keep those high level players away from the lower levels. This is done by, you know, having level ranges on a map. It won't restrict you from going to those levels, but it does limit the type of loot that you'll get. If you're someone who wears like tier 12 gear, why are you going to be in a tier 9 map? You're not. There's also level ranges for your accessories. It combines the total level of your accessories and allows you to go into certain maps. So that also restricts players from going into certain maps lower than them, because that doesn't let you go to a backward compatible map, you know, a level map. And lastly, there's different ranges, level ranges and loot ranges for the bosses we kill in the open world. You know, this game is all about farming elites and killing bosses and getting loot. So why are you going to waste your time grinding out mobs which are not dropping the gear you need, you know, gear that's valuable to you? So by doing so, it does limit the interaction between a pay-to-win player and a non-pay-to-win player, because those pay-to-win players are going to be, those whales are going to be leveled off in their own maps pretty quickly. So while it is certainly a common theme for strong whales to be stomping the weak, you know, they're not going to be in your face all the time. Maybe for a while as they pass through your level range, but not perpetually. I haven't had a problem with a whale being overly oppressive in this game, and it was surprising to me. But listen, a whale's a whale, you know, someone who spends money versus someone who doesn't. Can you compete against them head to head? No. But just because I can't kill them by myself doesn't mean three of us can't gang up on him and kill him. This is an MMORPG after all. You're not alone. And, you know, overall, I haven't been hindered too much. Unless there's a personal vendetta and someone actually hates you and coming after you, there hasn't been too much of a situation where a whale was overly destructive and limiting the player's success. You know, even if you're grinding 24/7, this game does have a dynamic RNG to it where you can only get a certain limited number of drops before, like, each drop, it goes progressively more and more difficult to get the next one. So every day that refreshes, you know, you get a few red drops, and then, you know, the next one's going to start getting a little bit more difficult. The next one's a little bit more difficult. So, you know, wasting your time in lower level maps, you know, fighting for these lower level bosses is a waste of time for them. Then comes the pinnacle content. That is the siege. There's castle siege and there's cross server castle siege. And this is going to be where the whales are going to truly shine. However, we're with our guild. We're not just alone. If we do run into a entire guild full of whales, there's no chance. But for my experience, I haven't run into that. In my guild, there are whales. In our rival guild, there are whales. And it hasn't been a disparity of, oh, who had more whales. It's always been who has more players showing up and who's actually working together, coordinating on Discord during the siege, and actually putting in strategy to win. If you just run head first into the enemy ball, even as a whale, you're gonna die. And an important thing to note about pay to win in this game is that you can earn the currency and which allows you to buy the pay to win currency from other players. So eventually you can get pretty much everything there. There are some limitations. They do tie things into directly spending. So not even a really good free to play player can get certain items. Like for example, pets. You can buy a pet which will last for a limited time, which gives you about 15% attack or defense. Whereas a pay to win player, they can swipe for a permanent 20% pet. You know, a pay to win player can get a 30% XP buff. A pay to win player can get 20% more currency from grinding mobs. They can buy a feature which allows them to auto pot and auto recycle gear, which is basically clearing your inventory, which allows them to perpetually grind without any supervision, whereas you would need to be checking your character every 8 to 12 hours as a free-to-play player. So there are a lot of factors from the pay-to-win side that really skew the power dynamics towards the whales. However, there are certain things that make it just bearable for a free-to-play player to play. Tongue twister. But still, despite those few things that make it possible to play free-to-play, I still didn't see why so many people were playing the game despite these massive differences. So we have to go on to the next factor in order to understand a little bit better. That is going to be autoplay. Personally, every time I saw autoplay on a mobile game, I'm like, nope, because I thought, you know, if everyone's just grinding, what's the point? If everyone's able to grind, then what's the point? Shouldn't we all be grinding 24/7 in that case? I mean, when autoplay is a staple in a mobile MMORPG, everyone is expected to grind all the time. And if you don't, you're going to fall behind. But I definitely understood the purpose of it from a different perspective, from the perspective of the players who do enjoy that system. You know, when you grow a bit older, you have more responsibilities, you lose time. You're not able to compete with other players on the basis of time alone. I can compete with managing my time. For example, I can't grind 8 hours a day, but I can check up on my characters throughout the day. You know, if it's auto grinding, you know, I could just make sure it's still alive, it still has potions, and then, you know, within a minute, just sort things out here and there throughout the day and get 8 hours of grind in. Whereas if I was on a traditional MMORPG, I can't do that. I can't even grind 2 hours on stream nowadays, let alone grind for 8 hours to compete with someone who has time. However, I don't think autoplay is the answer. I feel that this could be resolved through game design itself. Autoplay is merely something that mandates we have to be autoplay grinding, because if it's there and you're not doing it, then other people are and you will fall behind in terms of power level, etc. For me though, it's the fun factor that came into play here. Because that all the grind is segregated to autoplay, you have to autoplay, but you know, at least you're not physically there wasting your energy and time doing it. You can focus on the fun aspects of it, like PvP. Of course, fighting whales isn't fun, but there are some fun PvP incidents that happen, you know, having street fights with people same level as you, you know, and going back and forth at the spawn point against someone who's like evenly matched and then shit talking after. It was fun. And then there's like siege, you know, siege. While there are whales, you know, there is strategy we have to employ. It is working together. It is making calls. It is following the calls and supporting your teammates. It is fun as an activity overall. There's also bossing, fighting over bosses, but also just going out farming, you know? It's cultivation, it's getting better gear, and then the recycling gear, and then slowly progressing to a stronger build, and then moving to the next stage. So there are things that, despite it being a mobile game, despite it being a mobile MMORPG with pay to win and autoplay, there are things that I was able to enjoy because I wasn't wasting my energy doing something mundane like grinding. Now, there are monetization factors that came into play with autoplay, but it wasn't too egregious. You know, a pay to win player is always going to have a massive advantage over a non-pay to win player. Like, for example, the buying auto pots, the XP buffs and stuff. Pay to win is pay to win, and even in autoplay, there is pay to win factors. However, it wasn't too ridiculous, whereas someone's autoplay is worth double of mine or something like that. There are some games like that, by the way. But it is one thing that helped me realize that players do value. I always wrote it off. I thought, hey, this sucks. I don't want an autoplay game. Everyone just looks like a bot. But there are players out there who really look for that. And you know what? As we get older, it becomes more and more apparent. And lastly, the third factor is the cross-platform. I mean, it's not as significant as a game like Genshin Impact, where it's like, you know, flawless AAA quality cross-platform play. It's pretty janky, not gonna lie. You've been playing on an emulator versus the phone and then getting into Siege, everything lags. But, you know, there are emulators. Regardless of what platform, what PC you have, you're not held back on hardware that much, and you can download an emulator and play pretty much any mobile game. And there's also the cross-platform in terms of the devices, iOS versus Android. I can play it on my phone, I can play it on my tablet and stuff. These are just little things which are convenient, and that convenience goes a long way when you have limited time, when you are someone who's got a lot of responsibilities and you can't play MMORPGs like you used to. And when you add all of these up, you slowly start putting together the picture on why players go through a game like this, not spending much money, playing as a free-to-play, you know, being beneath the whales, but despite all that still continue to play. And the reasons can be different depending who you are. It's all about perspective. So here's mine in terms of this game in particular, talking about Mu Immortal over the last 30 days. So now we're getting to the meat of this. Why the hell are players playing this mobile game? It's certainly not the worst offender of the factors of pay to win and autoplay and such, but it's not fair either. There is a clear, distinct power gap between a whale and someone who's an ordinary person. Sorry. I mean, someone who plays like free to play or as a low spender. From everything we've heard right now on paper, players should straight up quit from what they're experiencing, but they haven't. And the reason behind it at the end of the day is it's the MMORPG experience. Like guys, even with all these negative factors of a mobile game, you know, it still holds a community. You know, there are still players who are playing together as an MMORPG. I joined a guild, and that guild is the #1 reason for me to continue playing through this over 30 days. I could have finished this within a week, but you know what? I had fun with them. They are my brothers. We fought together, we laughed together, we helped each other, we shit talk together, and we're homies. You know, we look out for each other. You know, shout out to my dudes. I know Bingus is gonna be in chat, you know, looking for his name. You know, Lao Feng, TRZ, Rai, you know, Hintaso, you know, all of these guys who I've been playing every day. You know, at least I've been seeing them. I mean, we might not interact every day, but you know, these guys are actual people out there enjoying the same game I'm playing, and that's what community is. There is genuine interaction between players in the chats, in the world chat, in the cross server chat, trading, buying stuff, you know, shit talking each other, or just chit chatting. You know, it is still an MMORPG. There is community, and the ability to hold a community is one of the defining factors of an MMORPG. And one feature that I found in this game that should be in every MMORPG on PC as well is that there is an auto translate feature. With a click of a button, you can translate any language that is typed in chat. How nice is that? I'm able to have like full-on conversations in this game with a Brazilian dude in my guild, and we're talking 2 different languages. We're trying to coordinate a party in order to go join this event thing, and it's really seamless on how it works. Crazy, right? Me recommending a feature on a mobile game for all games, but you know what? There are gems and diamonds in the rough, right? Of all the things in this day and age, that is such a simple thing. Everyone has a translator. There are plenty of translators out there to integrate, and it is so powerful, and it went a really long way in this experience. Next, we have the same kind of thrill PvPing. You know, despite the disparity, despite the pay to win and the whales, you know, it's still fun. It's not as cut and dry as someone is pay to win and someone is not. There, you can put the whales on a spectrum. Some people spend a lot more money than each other. Some people spend less. Some people spend more time on the game. Some people have more knowledge. Some people have more skill. It's not as cut and dry as saying, hey, that's a whale, that's not, the whale wins. You also run into plenty of players who play free to play and as low spenders, and you can duke it out with them on even playing fields, almost even playing fields, and still have a lot of fun. Every MMORPG is pay to win in one way or another, guys. You either pay with time or you pay with money. And if it's not pay to win, then you'll be punching above your weight and fighting players who've played the game for like 10 years and have you on skill. You know, you will be at a disadvantage one way or another. It is just natural in MMORPGs, and you might have to grind for months, whether it's in skill or in gear, to catch up in order to be at a fair point. So an MMORPG is never about the fairness, in my opinion. You know, it is good to have a fair game, but even without that fairness that we all hope and yearn and strive for, a community can hold a player's attention a lot better than just a single activity. And lastly, this game has been extremely accessible. For example, I get a ping on Discord and they're like, yo, Siege in 5 minutes. I'm already looking at Discord on my phone, just open the app and I'm in, you know? I can play for like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and then I close my phone, I'm done. Easy as that. It is, you know, really powerful that it's so accessible. I wrote that off as like, I can just walk to my PC or something like that. If I'm out, I'm not actually going to be playing. I'm probably be busy doing something. I never really gave it that much of a thought because, you know, I've had RuneScape on my phone for many years and I'm not always playing RuneScape when I'm out, right? It's very rare actually, but you know, in this case, in this game, it was very convenient. Whether you're in the bathroom or outside at shopping or something, you can sit down, join for Siege, and just dip afterwards. That convenience is a powerful thing when you are busy. You can't sit at a PC. You might not even have a PC, right? So if people who are playing these mobile games are in situations where they really value the game playing itself from autoplay, so they can focus on the fun parts and they don't have to sacrifice big parts of their day and schedule to go enjoy those fun things. They just pull out the phone and then they're there. You know, you still have a community, you have your friends, you have your guild. You know, there are things that are still fun even though it's not as good as a PC game. I mean, let's be real, right? Who can argue with that? Because the bottom line is, regardless if it's a PC game or a mobile game, you can still have fun just like any game. As long as you don't fall into the addiction and the dark patterns, you can still make memories and have a good time. But you have to be disciplined and set boundaries for yourself. And that goes with any game. You can get addicted to a PC game just as easily as a mobile game nowadays, right? So while the highs aren't as high as a PC game, you know, the good parts aren't as good in my opinion, but the lows aren't as low either. At the end of the day, it's just a casual mobile game. It has a niche community. It's not that mainstream of all things, right? But I can definitely understand why someone would play it. You know, it's easy to write it off as pay to win, autoplay, it sucks, but there are reasons for these players to play it. It is convenient for them. It is sensible for them to play a mobile game over a PC game. Now, of course, a lot of those people may be addicted to games or spending money. You know, at the end of the day, it is gambling for something or another. It is a form of gambling. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful and you're responsible for your own happiness. While my happiness does lie in PC MMORPGs, you know, I'll certainly keep covering mobile MMOs as well here and there because MMORPGs are a beautiful genre overall. I just hope that they keep progressing. You know, true cross-platform games like old school RuneScape, RuneScape 3, Albion, these are gems and they should be cherished. Like seriously, the way those games implemented their mobile clients, you know, hats off to them because it's so rare. It's so rare that these game companies don't cave into the profits and the money and the success that a mobile game could bring and sacrifice the beautiful game they built up. So despite all these negative factors about mobile games, there are things that we can look at and maybe even carry over to the PC to enhance the experience of PC MMOs, like the auto translate. So to close things off, all we can really do at the end of the day, you know, us players don't really have much of a say in the direction the genre goes as a whole, but we can prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And when it comes to the future of MMORPGs, I really do, you know, hope that it keeps evolving, keeps improving, whether mobile or PC, it goes in good directions to treat players right and give us great experiences. So, will I become a mobile MMORPG gamer now? No, hell no. But I certainly understand why some people choose to do so, and you know, I respect it. Guys, that's it for this video. If you did enjoy this, please do like, comment, and subscribe. Check me out at twitch.tv/I'mPansy, where I stream. I also live stream on YouTube, so actually watch me anywhere. But really do appreciate you guys sticking through till the end if you did. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll keep the content coming. See you soon. Peace.